Welcome back to Arsenal Daily Talk, your home for the biggest Arsenal news, transfer updates and everything happening at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal fans, this could be one of the biggest transfer stories of the summer. Reports are linking Arsenal with one of the world's most exciting footballers, Brazilian superstar Vinícius Júnior. While nothing has been officially agreed, speculation has intensified because the Real Madrid winger is entering the final year of his current contract, raising fresh questions about his long-term future. Could Mikel Arteta really bring one of football's biggest names to North London? Or is this simply another ambitious transfer story that won't become reality? Today we'll break down everything that's being reported, what it could mean for Arsenal, the challenges involved, and whether this blockbuster move has any realistic chance of happening. So make sure you stay until the very end, because every new development could have a huge impact on Arsenal's transfer plans. Let's get started. Over the last few days, multiple reports have suggested that Arsenal are closely monitoring Vinicius Junior's contract situation at Real Madrid. The Brazilian international has been one of Madrid's most influential players over recent seasons. His explosive pace, incredible dribbling ability, and eye for goal have made him one of the most feared attackers in world football. Because of that, any uncertainty surrounding his future immediately attracts attention from Europe's biggest clubs. According to the latest reports, negotiations over a new contract have not yet produced a final agreement. While Real Madrid are believed to want him to stay, discussions over financial terms are reportedly still ongoing. Whenever a player of Vinicius' quality enters the final year of a contract without a renewal being announced, Europe's elite clubs naturally begin watching the situation very closely. Arsenal are now being mentioned among those clubs. This doesn't necessarily mean a transfer is close. It doesn't mean a deal has been agreed, but it does suggest Arsenal are paying attention to an opportunity that could become available if circumstances change. That alone shows how ambitious Arsenal have become under Mikel Arteta. Just a few years ago, Arsenal would rarely be linked with players considered among the very best in the world. Now the conversation has changed completely. After consistently competing for the Premier League title and establishing themselves as one of Europe's strongest teams, Arsenal are increasingly being linked with elite talent. The club has already shown a willingness to invest heavily when the right player becomes available. If Arsenal truly believe Vinicius could transform the team, it's understandable that they would at least explore whether such a deal is possible. Of course, there are enormous obstacles. Real Madrid remain one of the biggest clubs in world football. Vinicius has enjoyed tremendous success in Spain and has built an outstanding reputation at the Santiago Bernabeu. That makes any potential move incredibly difficult. However, football has repeatedly shown that contract situations can change everything. When a player approaches the end of a contract, clubs often face difficult decisions. Do they reach an agreement on new terms? Do they consider selling before losing the player for less value later? Or do they remain confident that an extension will eventually be signed? Those are the questions surrounding Vinicius at the moment. For Arsenal supporters, it's exciting simply to see the club connected with players operating at this level. It reflects how much Arsenal's reputation has grown under Arteta's leadership. But excitement should also be balanced with patience. At this stage, these are reports rather than confirmed facts. No official announcement has been made by Arsenal or Real Madrid, and there is no confirmation that a transfer is imminent. Still, as every football fan knows, transfer stories can develop very quickly. One important meeting, one breakthrough in negotiations, or one unexpected decision can completely change the direction of a transfer window. That's why this story is attracting so much attention across Europe. And if Arsenal are genuinely monitoring the situation, supporters will be watching every update very closely, because opportunities to sign world-class players like Vinicius Jr. don't come around very often. Coming up next, we'll examine why Mikel Arteta could see Vinicius as the perfect signing, how he would fit into Arsenal's tactical system, and why this transfer could completely transform the Gunners' attack. Don't miss part 2. Now let's talk about the biggest question every Arsenal fan is asking. Why would Mikel Arteta want Vinicius Jr? The answer is actually quite simple. Arteta has spent the last few seasons building one of the most exciting young squads in Europe. Arsenal have become a team that dominates possession, presses aggressively and creates chances from quick attacking movements. But if there's one thing every title-winning side needs, it's players who can decide matches on their own. Vinicius is exactly that kind of player. He doesn't need 5 or 6 opportunities to change a game. Sometimes all he needs is one moment, one burst of pace, one successful dribble, one accurate finish. Those are the moments that separate good teams from champions. Imagine Arsenal lining up with Bukayo Saka on the right and Vinicius Jr on the left. Defenders would have almost no time to recover because both wingers thrive in 1-versus-1 situations. Teams wouldn't be able to overload one side of the pitch anymore. If they double mark Saka, Vinicius has space. If they focus on Vinicius, Saka becomes even more dangerous. That balance could make Arsenal's attack one of the most feared in European football. Then think about Martin Odegaard. The Arsenal captain is among the Premier League's best creators. His vision and passing allow him to find runners before defenders even react. Now picture Odegaard threading a perfectly weighted through ball behind the defence with Vinicius accelerating into open space. That's the type of move defenders hate. It's quick, it's direct, and it's incredibly difficult to stop. But Arteta values more than attacking ability. Every player must also work hard without the ball. Vinicius has shown throughout his career that he can press aggressively, track back when needed, and contribute defensively. Those qualities fit perfectly with Arsenal's high-intensity style. Another reason this story is generating so much excitement is Arsenal's growing ambition. Not long ago, many people questioned whether Arsenal could attract football's biggest stars. Today, that conversation is completely different. The Gunners have become regular Premier League title contenders. They've returned to competing in Europe's biggest competitions. They've invested heavily in strengthening the squad. That progress naturally attracts elite players. It also changes how Arsenal approach the transfer market. Instead of only searching for future stars, the club is increasingly linked with players who are already performing at the very highest level. That's a huge statement. However, Arsenal also know that signing a player like Vinicius would require much more than admiration. The financial package would likely be enormous. His salary expectations could become one of the biggest challenges. Real Madrid would also be reluctant to lose one of their biggest stars unless the circumstances force their hand. That's why Arsenal are reportedly watching the situation rather than rushing into negotiations. Everything depends on what happens with his contract talks in Madrid. If an agreement is reached, the speculation could disappear almost overnight. But if negotiations continue without progress, the transfer market could become extremely interesting. Arsenal would almost certainly not be the only club paying attention. Several of Europe's biggest teams would likely monitor the situation as well. Competition for a player of Vinicius' quality would be fierce. That's why Arsenal would need to act quickly if a genuine opportunity ever emerged. For now, though, supporters should remember that this remains a developing story. There is no official confirmation that Arsenal have submitted a bid or reached an agreement with the player. The situation is being closely watched, but many important steps would still need to happen before any transfer became reality. One thing is certain, if Arsenal somehow managed to sign Vinicius Jr, it would rank among the biggest transfers in the club's modern history, and it would send a powerful message to the rest of Europe that Arsenal are ready to compete with anyone for football's biggest prizes. In part 3, we'll break down Real Madrid's contract situation, why negotiations have become such a major talking point, and what could happen if no agreement is reached. Now let's take a closer look at the situation in Madrid, because this is where the entire story begins. Reports suggest that Real Madrid and Vinicius Jr have been discussing a new contract for some time. The Spanish giants have made it clear publicly in the past that they value the Brazilian highly, and Vinicius himself has often spoken about how much he enjoys playing for the club. However, despite those positive signs, a new deal has not yet been officially announced. That is exactly why speculation continues to grow. In football, contract situations can change very quickly. When a world-class player enters the final year of his contract, every major club starts paying attention. It doesn't necessarily mean the player wants to leave, but it does create uncertainty. According to various reports, negotiations have focused on the financial details of a potential extension. While different media outlets have reported different figures, there is still no official confirmation that both parties have reached a full agreement. For Real Madrid, this is an important moment. The club must decide how to secure the long-term future of one of its biggest stars while also maintaining its wage structure and financial strategy. For Vinicius and his representatives, the priority is reportedly finding an agreement that reflects his importance to the team. Until that happens, rumours are likely to continue. This is where Arsenal's name enters the conversation. Reports claim Arsenal are among the clubs monitoring the situation closely. That doesn't mean negotiations are underway or that a transfer is imminent. It simply means the Gunners are aware of a rare opportunity that could develop if contract talks fail to produce an agreement. And Arsenal are not alone. Whenever an elite player becomes even slightly available, Europe's biggest clubs naturally begin assessing the situation. That's standard practice in modern football. But what makes Arsenal different today is their growing reputation. Under Mikel Arteta, the club has rebuilt itself into a genuine contender for major trophies. Arsenal now have a young, talented squad, Champions League football, and a clear long-term project. Those factors make the club a far more attractive destination than they were several years ago. Still, there is another side to this story. Real Madrid have built their team around some of the world's best players, and losing Vinicius would be a major decision. Unless contract talks completely collapse or the player decides he wants a new challenge, Madrid are expected to do everything possible to keep him. That's why Arsenal supporters should stay realistic. At this stage, there is no official confirmation that Vinicius wants to leave Real Madrid. There is no official confirmation that Arsenal have submitted a formal offer, and there is no official confirmation that Real Madrid are willing to sell. Those are important facts to remember. Even so, transfer windows are often unpredictable. Many of football's biggest transfers began with contract uncertainty before accelerating rapidly. If discussions between Vinicius and Real Madrid reach a breakthrough, this story could end quickly. But if negotiations remain unresolved, the speculation surrounding Arsenal is only likely to grow stronger. And that is why football fans around the world are watching every update so closely. Coming up in part 4, we'll examine the biggest obstacle to this dream transfer, the transfer fee, wages, financial fair play considerations, and whether Arsenal could realistically afford one of the biggest deals in football. Now let's discuss what could be the biggest obstacle of all. Can Arsenal actually afford to sign Vinicius Jr? This is the question dominating conversations among Arsenal supporters. Signing one of the world's best players isn't just about convincing the footballer, it's also about meeting the financial demands of a deal that could become one of the most expensive in Arsenal's history. If Real Madrid were ever willing to negotiate, the transfer fee would almost certainly be enormous. Vinicius is still in his prime, has won major trophies, and remains one of the biggest stars in world football. Players with that profile rarely become available, and when they do, the price is usually exceptionally high. Then there are wages. Any club hoping to sign a player of Vinicius' calibre would likely need to offer a salary that reflects his status among the game's elite. Arsenal have worked hard in recent years to maintain a balanced wage structure, rewarding key players while avoiding unnecessary financial risk. That means the club would have to carefully consider whether making an exception is the right long-term decision. At the same time, Arsenal's financial position is stronger than it was a few years ago. The club has qualified for Europe's biggest competitions, increased commercial revenue, and shown a willingness to invest significantly in the transfer market when the right opportunity arises. Those factors have strengthened Arsenal's ability to compete for top-level talent, but spending wisely remains one of the club's priorities. Mikel Arteta and the recruitment team have consistently focused on signing players who fit both the tactical system and the long-term vision of the club. That strategy has played a major role in Arsenal's rise back to the top of English football. Because of that, Arsenal would not be expected to rush into a deal without carefully evaluating every aspect of it. Another important factor is competition. If Vinicius ever became genuinely available, Arsenal would almost certainly not be the only club interested. Other elite European clubs could also explore the possibility of signing him. That could create a bidding battle, making any transfer even more complicated and expensive. For Arsenal, that means the sporting project could become just as important as the financial offer. Players at the highest level often look beyond money. They want to compete for league titles, they want to challenge for the Champions League, they want to work with ambitious managers and play alongside world-class teammates. Those are areas where Arsenal have made tremendous progress under Mikel Arteta. The Gunners have developed a young, exciting squad capable of competing with Europe's best teams, and that progress has transformed how players view the club. However, supporters should remember one important point. As things stand, there is no official confirmation that Arsenal have made a formal bid, agreed personal terms, or opened direct negotiations with Real Madrid over Vinicius Jr. Much of the discussion is based on reports and speculations surrounding his contract situation. That means this story could move in several different directions. A contract extension could end the speculation. Fresh negotiations could increase interest from other clubs, or new developments could completely change the picture in the coming days or weeks. That's what makes this one of the most fascinating transfer stories of the window. Arsenal fans have every reason to keep watching closely because opportunities involving players of Vinicius' quality don't come around very often. In Part 5, we'll imagine how Vinicius Jr could transform Arsenal's starting 11, which players would benefit the most, and why many fans believe this signing could take the Gunners to another level. Now, Arsenal fans, let's imagine for a moment that this incredible transfer actually happens. How would Vinicius Jr fit into Mikel Arteta's starting 11? It's a fascinating question because Arsenal already have one of the strongest attacks in the Premier League. Adding a player of Vinicius' quality would give Arteta even more tactical flexibility and create serious problems for every defence in England and Europe. The most obvious position for Vinicius would be on the left wing. Throughout his career, that's where he has been at his most dangerous. His explosive acceleration, close control and confidence in one-on-one situations make him one of the toughest players in world football to defend. Imagine Arsenal breaking forward on a counter-attack. Martin Ødegaard wins the ball in midfield and immediately spots Vinicius sprinting into space. One perfectly weighted pass is all it takes. Within seconds, Vinicius is racing toward goal, forcing defenders to retreat and creating opportunities not only for himself but also for his teammates. Now think about Bukayo Saka on the opposite wing. For years, opponents have focused much of their defensive attention on stopping Saka. Double marking him has often been the preferred strategy, but if Vinicius were on the other side, opponents would face an impossible choice. Do they send extra defenders towards Saka, or do they try to contain Vinicius? Either decision could leave dangerous space elsewhere on the pitch. That balance could make Arsenal's attack far more unpredictable. Then there's Arsenal's centre forward. Whether it's a striker making runs behind the defence or dropping deep to link play, having two elite wingers delivering crosses, creating chances and stretching defences could significantly increase Arsenal's attacking threat. Arteta also values versatility. Vinicius isn't simply a player who hugs the touchline. He can drift inside, combine with teammates in tight spaces and attack central areas when opportunities appear. That movement would give Arsenal another dimension in the final third, but perhaps the biggest impact would be psychological. When elite players join a club, they don't just improve the starting 11, they raise expectations, they increase competition for places, they push everyone in training to perform at a higher level. That kind of environment often helps the entire squad improve. At the same time, it's important to remain realistic. As exciting as this scenario sounds, Arsenal supporters should remember that this remains a transfer rumour rather than a confirmed deal. There has been no official announcement from Arsenal or Real Madrid confirming negotiations, an agreement or an imminent transfer. Much will depend on how Vinicius' contract situation develops over the coming weeks. If a new deal is signed, the speculation could end quickly. If no agreement is reached, interest from top clubs, including Arsenal, according to reports, could continue to grow. One thing is certain: